The CIA spent millions of dollars and decades figuring out how to change what you think, what you feel, and what you believe, using nothing but sound. And the craziest part, they actually found something. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to want to run a little experiment on yourself. Okay, so 1983, the U.S. Army gets their hands on a classified report. It is called Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Experience, written by a lieutenant colonel named Wayne McDonnell. Now, this document sat in a literal CIA vault for 37 years. 37 years. It was only declassified in 2003, and basically nobody noticed until 2021, when it randomly went viral on TikTok of all places. A CIA document, going viral, on TikTok. We live in a simulation, I am convinced. So what is the Gateway Experience? It is a program developed by a guy named Robert Monroe, a businessman, not a scientist, who started having spontaneous out-of-body experiences in the late 1950s, and instead of checking himself into a hospital, he thought, I should study this. Monroe eventually built a whole institute around this, the Monroe Institute in Virginia, and developed an audio technology he called hemi-sync, short for hemispheric synchronization. And that is what the CIA was interested in. Now, before you close this tab and go, this is just some hippie nonsense. Hold on, because the document I am talking about is literally on the CIA's own website. I will link it in the description. You can go read it yourself. This is not Reddit conspiracy stuff. This is a declassified U.S. government report, written by a military officer for the United States Army. So what exactly is this frequency they were studying? Okay, here is the actual science, and it is genuinely fascinating. Your brain runs on electrical patterns. These patterns are called brainwaves, and they operate at different frequencies depending on your mental state. When you are stressed and overthinking everything at 2 a.m., that is beta waves, around 14 to 30 hertz. When you are in that perfect flow state, totally locked in, alpha waves, 8 to 13 hertz. Deep meditation, early sleep, theta, 4 to 7 hertz. Deep dreamless sleep or some truly weird altered states, delta 0.5 to 4 hertz. Now here is where it gets interesting. Monroe discovered, and this has since been backed up by peer-reviewed neuroscience, that you can actually nudge your brain into a specific state by playing to slightly different tones in each ear simultaneously. So if your left ear hears a tone at 200 hertz, and your right ear hears a tone at 207 hertz, your brain, trying to reconcile the difference, produces a phantom sound at 7 hertz. And your brainwaves start to sync to that frequency. That is a binaural beat. And 7 hertz? That is smack in the middle of theta, the state associated with deep relaxation, enhanced creativity, and, according to Monroe, experiences that go way beyond normal consciousness. This is not mystical. This is your brain being hacked by math. But here is the thing the CIA report actually describes, and this is the part that made me read it twice. It is not just about relaxation. The report talks about something called focus levels, specific mental states that Monroe mapped like floors of a building. Focus 10 is mind awake, body asleep. Focus 12 is expanded awareness. Focus 15 is what Monroe called no time. And focus 21. We will get to focus 21 in a minute. Trust me, you want to know what is on that floor. So why does the CIA care about a guy's audio meditation program? Well, and here's where the real story kicks in. This was the Cold War. The Soviets were allegedly running programs in psychic research, remote viewing, psychokinesis, the whole 9 yards. The U.S. did not want to get left behind in the psychic arms race. Yes, that was a real thing. So they launched their own programs. The most famous being Project Stargate, which ran from 1978 to 1995 and was eventually declassified. The Gateway program was being looked at as a potential training method. If you could reliably put someone into a deep theta state, a state of heightened receptivity, and what Monroe called resonance, could you enhance intuition, Could you improve the abilities of remote viewers? The report actually uses some wild language. McDonald writes about the brain achieving phase coherence, basically both hemispheres running in sync, and describes it as a state where the amplitude and frequency of the electrical patterns align in ways that potentially allow access to what he calls the time-space matrix. Now, I am not here to tell you that is real, but I am telling you a U.S. Army lieutenant colonel wrote that in an official document, which is its own kind of fascinating. Okay, a quick pause, because I want to address the elephant in the room. Some of this report reads like a perfectly normal neuroscience paper, and then some of it reads like the guy took a wrong turn and ended up in a philosophy seminar at 3 a.m. McDonald literally writes about holographic theory, quantum mechanics, and consciousness existing outside the body in an Army document that you can download as a PDF from the CIA. I genuinely cannot tell if this is the most sophisticated thing the government ever produced or if someone had a very interesting weekend in Virginia. Possibly both. But here is what separates this from pure conspiracy territory. The neuroscience around binaural beats is actually legit. A 2019 study in psychological research found that binaural beats in the theta range reduced anxiety and improved working memory. A 2020 meta-analysis in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience looked at 22 studies and found significant effects on memory, attention, and anxiety. The U.S. National Institutes of Health has published multiple papers on this. It is studied at real universities. It is not fringe. What I still debated is the more extreme stuff, the out-of-body experiences, the remote viewing enhancement, the access to other consciousness dimensions, language in the CIA report. That part, mainstream science has not caught up with, or is not willing to touch. But the baseline claim, that specific audio frequencies measurably change your brain state, that is as established as the fact that caffeine wakes you up. The mechanism is just more elegant. Now I want to go back to the title. Because BAND is doing a lot of work there and you deserve the full picture. The program was not banned in the way your school banned phones. It was not a government decree saying nobody is allowed to listen to 7 Hz tones. What happened is more interesting. The Gateway program was quietly shelved. The report was classified. The work on remote viewing was defunded after a 1,995 review concluded it had no demonstrated intelligence value, though several of the program's researchers disputed that conclusion loudly and publicly. So the technology itself? Still out there. You can buy Monroe Institute recordings right now. Binaural beats are all over Spotify and YouTube. The specific frequencies are not secret. What got buried was the institutional research. The government-funded investigation into whether this could be weaponized or used operationally. That got shut down. And the full picture of why and what they actually found before they stopped, that is still murky. Here is the part that I think about the most. The same technology that the CIA was studying to potentially manipulate people's consciousness, to train spies, to experiment on the human mind, is the exact same technology that wellness apps are now selling you as a sleep aid. You've probably used it without knowing it. Those focus playlists on Spotify, the sleep tracks with the weird droning tone underneath, the meditation apps with deep sleep audio, binaural beats, all of it. So the CIA's banned frequency has gone from a classified military document to your phone's bedtime playlist. Make that make sense. I promised you Focus 21. Here it is. In Monroe's system, Focus 21 is described as the edge of what he called the time-space illusion. It is the deepest level in the standard gateway sequence, point at which, Monroe claimed, practitioners reported contact with other forms of consciousness, perceived nonlinear time, and experienced what he described as the boundary between physical existence and something else entirely. The CIA report does not endorse this. McDonald writes about it carefully. He describes the theoretical framework, the holographic model of the universe it relies on, the quantum mechanics analogies. He is clearly trying to give it a rigorous treatment without fully committing to the conclusion. But the fact that he wrote it at all at a military document prepared for the U.S. Army seriously engages with the question of whether human consciousness can transcend physical space. That is the part that sits with me. Because either they were chasing something real, or they spent taxpayer money for years on something they knew was nonsense. And somehow neither option is reassuring. I am not telling you to strap on headphones and try to astrally project yourself into a CIA briefing. That is between you and your Thursday night. But I do think this story is worth knowing, because it sits at this perfect intersection of real, peer-reviewed neuroscience and genuinely bizarre government history, and the question of what human consciousness is actually capable of. The CIA report is in the description. It is a real document. Go read it. Form your own opinion. And if you want to go down the rabbit hole further, there is a whole side of the story around Project Stargate and the remote viewers that I will cover in a separate video. Because that story is a lot. If this video got your brain firing in weird ways, subscribe, because that is basically what this channel is for. I will see you in the next one.